Issa, you have been summoned to the courtyard of your temple by
Mhm.
the Daman Master.
She will then head to the courtyard.
Which, unlike the rest of the temple that is cold and made of old stone, the building itself is probably built in the 1700s, is really old, damp, in stark contrast to the courtyard, which lays in the center of the structure itself. A few trees in here, and some fruit trees, as well as a nice green lawn and a small pond in the middle, and the Daman Master sitting at a bench, feeding some breadcrumbs to the ducks in the water.
She will walk over to where he is sitting and feeding the ducks and stand there and look expectantly at him.
And he's a featureless man wearing robes, and his hood's pulled back, and he has a bald head. And for a while, there's just silence other than the sounds of nature around you. Issa, my child, I do believe we have a task for you.
And what would that be?
We do apologize
For?
for you having to go off and close some of these continuity problems. They have been more prevalent of late, but there has been a major development that concerns us deeply. We have spies that have discovered that a Dr. Karl Bowman is in the field testing a recent batch of vile poison. We do believe that the poison have fun editing this, that the poison has a name of 464.
I see. And what is it that you want me to do about this?
This doctor is notorious for torturing prisoners in the name of science. We need him brought in for justice.
I agree that he should face justice. However, if there is no rift, how is it something I can assist with?
We believe that an event has occurred where he is conducting his experiments.
So I am to investigate that.
Yeah.
How am I to travel there?
We have organized a truck, and he reaches into his robes and pulls out two rolled pieces of paper and hands them to you.
And Issa will take them and look at them, not knowing what they're about.
You open the first one, and it looks like orders
For?
for a Peter Schmidt.
All right. She will look at that, and then, assuming she already knows what the second is going to say, she will open the second as well.
And it is also orders for a Werner Weiter.
I believe these two are going to be rather sick of me by now.
tend to agree, but it's better the devil you know than the ones that you do not. They have experienced the things that others have not, so we would trust them implicitly.
I tend to agree. You are a really annoying child.
And don't forget to take the one that you are supposed to be keeping an eye on, and make sure that he does not get his hands on.
Surely, if you are concerned that he would try and get his hands on something, it would be better for him to remain here.
This 464 is a highly potent mustard gas derivative. We are sure that the Dr. Bowman will have a formula developed for this chemical weapon, and the best person to find such a formula would be your compatriot, Xander.
Most likely to find it in order to use it, perhaps.
In this way, you must keep an eye on him.
I still do not understand how exactly it is you wish me to deal with him if he does anything dangerous. He is much taller than me and has a gun.
You will have two friends with you, yeah?
Very well, where is he?
We have summoned him. He'll be here momentarily.
Very well. He had best be punctual if he cannot be anything else.
And besides, he will be the one to have to drive you to the location.
And you see Xander approaching. He's coming from around the side of the lake on a path that is not the main path.
And as he approaches, he will see that he is being glared at by a child with her arms folded across her chest. She doesn't look very pleased.
Ah, Isa. So great to see you again.
We are leaving, you're driving, and we're picking up the other two.
You sure you don't want to drive?
Quite.
Alright, so you can fill me in on the way.
Fine. And she will follow him to the vehicle.
Outside the temple is an old familiar lorry.
And Issa will clamber up into the passenger side.
Are you sure you don't want to sit in the back? Suit yourself. And Xander will climb into the driver's seat and begin driving towards the base, I'm assuming, where the others are.
The year is 1915, and the world is at war. Middle Europa was an empire already pulling itself to pieces, long before they made their grab for power that started it all. 8 states held tenuously together by their Kaiser, who seeks to return his nation to its former glory. The Western nations took notice. Led by the Kingdom of Lions, they opposed Middle Europa and their allies, leading to the Great War. Millions have met their deaths in the endless tide of mud and blood and bullets and toxic gas, but the war that chewed them up and spat out their bones shows no sign of slowing down. In the midst of this obvious devastation, a more subtle threat has also emerged. Slivers of creeping dread needle those with the ability to notice them. The world that is at war is changing in ways it shouldn't, ways it shouldn't be able to. Events are undone, overwritten, continuity is warping, and if nothing is done, reality itself could be at risk. As the struggle for power overlaps with the struggle to preserve reality, loyalty and duty may be called into question, pitted against serving the greater good or even just surviving. This is the world of Carbon Grey.
And the temple's on the outskirts of town, and as you drive into town, there's makeshift barracks that have been set up within the town itself, because just over the horizon is the constant sounds of warfare, the bombs, and during the night is the distant explosions that erupt, causing bright white and yellow flashes across the sky that almost looks like lightning that bursts up from the ground. And on the nights that are overcast, the light show is, some would say, pleasant to look at without, if you did not know what was actually going on in the distance. And it's not long before you reach the makeshift barracks. The town is a bustle with other vehicles and people leading horses and carts, and you hear every now and then, people chatting and the sounds of the horns, and every now and then you pass a troop of soldiers marching. And it's not long before you find yourself at the makeshift barracks.
All right. Then Issa's going to head to the office we've gone to before.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't remember who was in it last time. It was a different person the first time and the second time, but she's looking for whoever's in charge and in an office so she can say, I've got orders for these people. They've got to go do stuff.
And the receptionist checks the orders and hands them back. You do not need us to fetch them. You can go and fetch them yourselves. These give you direct orders.
Fine. Do you know where they are?
This one, he will be in the medical tent. And this one, probably relaxing in the barracks.
And which is closer?
The barracks.
Fine. And she will turn on her heel and head to the barracks.
Where there's an open doorway and a couple of gritty, old-looking soldiers walk out and sort of stare at you briefly before continuing on, muttering to themselves. And inside is a plain, almost looking room, but it's more like a hall that's been set up with a lot of bunks. And there's probably about 30 to 40 bunks in here. And some of them have people in them, and most don't. There's equipment and boxes at the end of each bunk. Some have posters up, some not so nice posters, but
She will enter the barracks, ignoring the muttering soldiers, and see if she can spot Corporal Werner Reiter.
who looks to be like he's trying to look something up in a book,
In a
like a dictionary,
dictionary.
perhaps.
Oh dear.
And he closes the book and puts it down. And he looks over at Issa.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks at her for a while. Before he slowly gets up and gets his coat, pulls it on, buttons it up, picks up his carbine and his pistol and his hat. And he does it with just a little bit of reluctance. And then he walks over.
And she will, without saying anything just yet, hand him his roll of paper.
And he takes it and looks at the roll of paper and puts it in his pocket.
You don't want to know what it says.
9. I am assuming it's orders, yeah? Something dangerous and unexplained.
Well,
Somewhere between our world and the next?
part of it, perhaps. The rest of it sounds just like general, explainable unpleasantness.
Much like the last one. My orders then was we have lost communication with the outpost. Go and see.
Well, if you don't want to read them, we had best go get the doctor.
I am sure he will be thrilled.
And she will head for the medical tent.
And he will follow, because he already assumed he was in this now. She doesn't turn up when she just...
She just come to visit.
Yeah, can we play ball?
Here, I
Shocking.
drew you a picture.
Never comes
Yeah.
over as a friend.
Not
Always
orders.
wants
No.
something. Bloody
Something
children.
dangerous and horrible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bloody children.
Yes,
The kids of
children.
today
They only show up when
playing
they.
with demons and
Exactly.
rifts that into other worlds. Do you want to come and play with me in something that could potentially kill you, turn you inside out, or turn you into mush?
This is not what she's saying when she reaches the medical tent.
hmm And you reach the medical tent, and it's kind of busy. There's people, coming and going, nurses and doctors, all dressed in field gear as well as white. Some local. There's even you recognize civilian doctors mixed in with military doctors, and there's patients that are screaming, other patients are crying, some patients are slumped over. One particular patient looks beyond saving. Beyond them, you can see Mr. Smith.
Yes, Peter Schmidt.
All right, and she will walk over to him and hold out a roll of paper.
He takes off his leather gloves, puts them on the table in front of somebody with their guts hanging out, obviously dead, beyond saving.
Okay.
And he turns around a little bit in shock. Shall we take this outside? I don't think a little one like you should be in here.
fine. And she is not looking at the corpse, but is staring at the paper she is holding, and she will turn around and walk out of the tent.
Peter will follow.
Difficult day, Doctor?
Not our most productive.
I understand.
And she will again hold out the paper to him.
He will pick it up and look at it. More orders, and let me guess. They need someone to carry out these orders?
That was my understanding. Yes.
He will look at the piece of paper.
Your role is to treat any wounded that you come across. And given that the gas is quite toxic to humans, you probably might want to take precautions as well as extra medications like morphine. There's not much you can do about burnt lungs.
Is there anything that you need to bring with you?
I have what I need. I do not know about the doctor.
I will need to pack my bag. It should only be a minute. And he will walk back in and get his doctor's bag. He will come back out.
And as you come out, the air of conversation and crying and the daily activities at the tent is interrupted by a swerves around Xander with an old guy driving it, yelling and cursing and throwing his fist. Get out of the road, you crazy man! And the automobile carries on down the road.
Xander will pull up in front of the group if he's able to.
Issa's getting into the lorry.
As will Werner.
Ah, good to see you again, my friends.
Is there still room in the truck? Or does he have to get in his back?
Well, there's room for
if you-
3 in the front.
Issa didn't get in the front this time.
Neither did Werner.
So if the doctor wants to get in the front, he can.
The doctor will get in the front.
And Werner will slide the rear window open at the back of the cab. So what is it that we are risking our lives for this time?
I think it's best to let Issa explain. It has something to do with a poison gas.
And Issa, who'd been just about to explain, glares at Xander and then says, "We are supposed to arrest a Dr. Bowman. He has been conducting unethical experiments using a variant of mustard gas."
I see.
So he is the one doing this to our men.
I suppose I do not have information on who specifically he has been harming, just that he has been harming people. And that there may be something unusual about it, more so than his poor behavior.
Gas, in and of itself, is unethical. A truly horrific, destructive force. What has he been doing on top of that that has made it our concern?
Beyond torturing prisoners to further his research, I am not entirely sure. I was informed there could be an event, a rift, I suppose, but I could not say for certain.
See. And Herr Doctor, for the record, it was us who used gas first in an attempt to break the front lines. As if war was not bad enough. This Bauer does not sound like the type of individual who values life.
He will be brought to justice. Either we capture him and he will be tried, or if that is not possible, I suggest that someone shoot him.
Is there no scenario where his research could be useful?
Werner considers closing the window.
You want to cut a deal with him?
That will not be happening.
But it just seems like he would.
No, not to cut a deal. We have no need to do that.
So you would like to torture prisoners then, Xander?
Oh, of course not. I would never do such a thing.
What is it you would do?
Let's say, for example, our enemies develop a mustard gas equivalent. Wouldn't it be useful to have one of our own that we could study and perhaps come up with some sort of countermeasure for?
There is no countermeasure, Xander. Have you ever experienced gas?
I have not. But that doesn't mean that a countermeasure can't be found.
There has not been one.
And how would you find one without testing, as the doctor has been doing?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
It burns your lungs, and you don't die quickly or well. Worse, when it is cold, it can crystallize and can sit on your uniform, and when you go off the line near a fire, suddenly it turns back into its gaseous form. War is bad enough. I've never seen anything more horrific than gas.
If this one, and Issa gestures to Xander, attempts to take anything he should not, I suggest one of the two of you shoot him as well.
All I am proposing is that we investigate and don't destroy things without first considering all of the options before us.
I stand by my statement.
I have seen blind men lined up coming from the front, one holding upon the other, being led to a medical station that they will never see again. I will be happy to see gas eradicated.
I as well. That is what I would be trying to accomplish.
I believe you just talked about wanting to use gas, especially the research.
No, that's not what I said at all. I want to use gas to study it.
You could not develop such a thing without human testing. You are not permitted.
I cannot help shaking the feeling that this is exactly the kind of conversation this bower would have been having.
What is simple, Xander, is that you are forbidden from attempting to take any research or samples or any such thing. Is that clear? You are being observed.
I'm well aware.
Xander, you yourself admitted that you've never encountered gas. So why are you arguing with the one who treats it and the one that watches it?
I am curious by nature.
The fact that you called gas nature concerns me.
I said it's in my nature to.
We have been ordered to arrest the doctor, to try and treat anyone who is treatable, and then I am supposed to look for anything else unusual. No one is beginning their own research into this, Xander.
My point is maybe they should. That is all. Doesn't have to be me.
If anybody here that would research it, it would be me. I'm the doctor. And you're the one with the curiosity. You don't even have a goal to research it. You're not a doctor. It just... You're curious. It's not a good reason.
Are we nearly there?
After about 40 minutes drive on the nice, crisp, cool morning air, the road leads from open plains into a heavily forested area. And before you know it, rising up out of the forest on the right-hand side, there's a sharp turn off the road that leads into a small dirt track that leads up to a boom gate, and outside the boom gate are two empty lorries, and either side of the boom gate is flanked by 10-foot high wire fence that is topped with razor wire that winds its way around a large compound. And the compound has... And beyond the boom gate is a bitumen roadway that leads into the compound with looks like some sort of administration building on the left, and beyond that along the left looks like what appears to be could be the barracks. Behind that in the distance over a large bitumen area which Werner and Peter would probably recognize as maybe the parade grounds. Could be anything, maybe storage. And on the right is a large flat top building with a huge set of roller doors. And at the tip of each corner of the compound and at the front stands high wooden towers that are empty. Not a soul can be seen.
Xander will pull the car up next to the 2 abandoned lorries and turn off the engine.
And once the engine shuts down, everything goes quiet. Unnaturally quiet. Even the sounds of nature don't exist here for some reason. You would expect to hear the sounds of birds, but all you can hear is the rustling of wind through trees. And surrounding the compound, the area is heavily forested, except on the southern side, where through some of the trees you glimpse what appears to be a frozen lake.
Xander will get out of the vehicle. It's eerily quiet here. I was expecting some resistance.
Issa will get out of the lorry.
But not at any of the towers.
Maybe they are too packed up and moved.
Werner will drop down and take the metal canister that's on his back and hand it to Issa.
What is this?
Good idea.
It is my gas mask.
And why are you handing it to me?
And he points to the series of buildings that we are approaching. I am expecting this bower to have gas. If worse comes to worse, and believe me, I hope it doesn't, put it on.
Then what are you going to do?
I am hoping that either we can do this without releasing any gas, or that they are not as stupid as I feel they are for messing with this stuff and have taken some precautions, which will be, at the very least, masks somewhere in their facility. Of which case I will take one.
I see.
Besides, I should not have expected you to have planned for such an eventuality. That should have been something myself and the doctor did, and V did not.
I will hold on to this for you. However, I make no promises about using it if there are those who do not have them.
If you are going to be stubborn, at the very least, try to get to the highest point if the gas. It is a cloud and it is heavier. It will stay closer to the ground.
And she nods at this.
We have
I
no
see.
hills here, but some of the buildings may be just tall enough to be outside of the cloud.
All right. And has it got a strap or something? Anything she can kind of hang over her shoulder? Or okay,
Yeah.
then she'll sling it
Yeah.
over her shoulder.
There is something sort of strange about the complex. There appear to be a series of small pipes that lead from the flat top building there over towards the towers. At least the ones that we can see for sure. They're partially dug into the ground, you can see there. And, suppose they could be used to drain something like the gas. It's hard to know for sure until we get a closer look, but we should be careful that it's not some sort of dispersal system. Perhaps someone with a mask can go take a look.
Does it look like there's any gas hanging in the air? I'm assuming there isn't.
It's just a compound that's sort of it looks out of place where it is, but the location's obviously been chosen because of the heavily forested area. The buildings are quiet. There's no sounds of animals or anything. Even the breeze has died down.
The wind in such situations are both a blessing and a curse. And Werner starts moving through the forest towards the facility as quietly as he can. He does not want to be seen.
While you're parked right outside the front of the boom gate.
And he turns around and punches Xander. Werner walks over to the trucks and he looks in the back. And he disappears inside. He climbs up into the rear of it. And then a few seconds later drops down and walks around to the front and places his hand on the hood. They are cold. Maximum could be... I have seen 45 to 50. But that is standing and crammed in like fish in a tin can. Probably closer to 30 if both were full. They have been here for a while. And he pulls back the bolt on his rifle. And he undoes his pocket and takes out the rounds and now loads his rifle. Slides it, the bolt closed, puts the safety on, and rebuttons his pocket so the rounds don't fall out.
Fair.
He then walks over to the edge, and he doesn't take a combat stance. He just goes over, but he leans against the edge and sort of peers around, just looking very carefully at the inner area on the opposite side of the boom gate.
Well, everywhere's pretty visible, and there's nothing, obvious, other than what Xander's now pointed out as what may have been, what not appears to be right about the compound. But the wire fence, doesn't obscure any view or anything like that. But the fact that there's no sound is probably the most eerie feeling you're getting at the moment.
Herr Doctor, do you have any idea of what that could be?
The pipes?
Yeah.
Maybe some filtration, but I'm no mechanic.
In truth, demolitions is all I was ever trained in that regard. You? I'm assuming not, Herr Xander?
I have not seen anything like this before.
It does not seem a standard sort of building. Weird modification. I mean, they could vent the gas, I guess, into the ground, but even that feels risky. And he steps into the courtyard.
If people are starting to move, Issa's following.
So he's going to walk at the moment just straight up the drive, shifting his attention from the building on his left to the large warehouse-sized one on the right until he gets to sort of the T intersection, and then he will look into the large parade ground and sort of take that moment to look around.
If it looks like there's residue or gas near, he will put his gas mask on.
Xander does not have a gas mask, so he's staying a little bit outside the, what did you call it, boom gate?
Yep, the boom gate.
Before ultimately deciding that he doesn't want to get left behind and goes around it instead of over or under.
Okay, so the boom gate is like one of those red and yellow ones that go up and down, made of wood, and it would have like a little guardhouse with one or two people that would normally sit there waiting and approving people to go in and out.
Mm.
As the first three are walking towards the bottom left-hand corner of that flat top building, you notice that as you pass the building on your left, at the front door is wide open, and even the doors on the other buildings are all open as well. You look around the parade area, and there is nothing to indicate that there's been any sort of residue deposited or even movement. Werner catches a glimpse of the roller doors, and they're wide open as well, leads into what looks to be like a gymnasium sort of area. And as Xander rounds the boom gate to go into the compound, he hears the sound of feet walking slowly through a forested area from behind him. And some of those sounds change into what sounds to be like feet sliding across bitumen.
Xander will spin around to face the noise.
The Carbon Grey role-playing game is published by Magnetic Press, starring SPG as Peter, Shadow as Xander, Ghost as Werner, Emily as Isa, and Raveninsane as the storyteller. Sounds and music are from Sirenscape and Epidemic Sound. Thanks very much for listening.